Peterson on the air with some new clues, taking us inside the jury room at Donald Trump's trial with a couple of notes from the jurors late today as we are now officially on verdict watch. We're going to take you live outside the courtroom with that big question everybody wants the answer to. Plus, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito blaming his wife for flying those controversial flags outside their home in a new letter to Congress, mentioning her 10 times. Why he says it's not enough for him to step aside in some pretty big cases involving former President Trump. Then, in tonight's original, a new way to treat ADHD that's making some patients say they don't need meds for it anymore. Plus, pandemonium, barely contained in a story that's pretty black and white. We're going to have fewer bad puns and more on the U.S.-China diplomacy of the panda's return to the National Zoo in just a sec. And why a man who some say is the greatest baseball player ever is finally getting his rightful records 80 years after he was banned from the big leagues. That's coming up later in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and in just the last half hour or so, we learned there is not going to be a verdict in the trial of Donald Trump today. Those 12 New Yorkers are saying they need some more time. We don't know how much more, but they need more after sending a couple of notes to the judge late today. I want to show you the camera here. So this is live right now. This is where we expect to see former President Trump walking out of court because his lawyers are still inside. Actually, lawyers for both sides are in there, the prosecution and the defense. They're hammering out some sort of last-minute issues before tomorrow morning court comes back into session bright and early. That is when jurors are expected to hear jury instructions and some of the testimony they wanted read back to them. And remember, there's a lot to talk through here. 34 separate felony counts that Mr. Trump allegedly falsified business records to cover up hush money payments to Stormy Daniels over an alleged affair that the former president denies. He himself today is drawing a self-comparison to a literal saint. Listen.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
Outside today, you're looking at some small groups of supporters lining up for him, and there's a painting there right behind him. That's Mr. Trump knocking out Robert De Niro, the actor who spoke out against him last night. Now, our team in court is saying there's some empty seats in the overflow room today, not nearly as many people there as were for closing arguments. I want to bring in Dasha Burns outside court. Our legal analyst, Danny Savalos, is here with us at 30 Rock. And I want to start with these two big headlines here, right? The clues we're getting from the jurors just recently, and this potentially controversial jury instruction from Judge Merchan that's getting a lot of attention. So, Dasha, let me start with you on that first bucket here. This moment where the bell rings, it sounds like an old 1960s telephone, apparently. Jury's got a note. They ended up having two notes. They want a little bit more info from the judge. They want two transcripts read back to them. They want the jury instructions read back to them. Walk us through it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a heart attack moment out here for us, Hallie, when the jury bell rang. You can see I'm right over here on Media Row. I'll have Miguel Terran show you. This press pen was just a buzz in activity because we weren't sure what that jury bell meant. Was it going to be a note with questions or was it going to be the verdict? Turns out it was a note with questions. 4 requests from the jury in the first note. The first one requesting the testimony of David Pecker. Remember, he's a publisher of The Inquirer, and his phone conversation with Donald Trump while Pecker was in an investor meeting. So requesting that conversation or that part of Pecker's testimony. Then they want the testimony of both Pecker and Michael Cohen about the Trump Tower meeting back in August of 2015 when prosecutors alleged that he and that Pecker, Cohen, and Trump all hashed out that catch and kill scheme. And finally, Pecker's testimony about the transfer of McDougal, Karen McDougal, the Playboy playmate alleging an affair with Trump, her life rights to Trump. Then a second note came asking for these jury instructions. I mean, look at this is a hefty stack of papers here. These are the jury instructions that the jury themselves is not allowed to have inside that deliberation room. So they want this read back to them as well. Court wrapped up for the day. We're going to hear all of this read to the jury tomorrow morning, Hallie.
So, Danny, let me go to you on this. With these jury notes coming in, it seems interesting to me that one of the things that they wanted was a comparison, perhaps, or at least the testimonies of what David Cohen said, David Pecker said and what Michael Cohen said about that critical Trump Tower meeting. It is potentially possible that they want to see what did Michael Cohen say about this? What did David Pecker say about this? Let me bring some of that up here. We have these in graphics. Largely, when they were talking about this discussion about that Trump Tower meeting, David Pecker here is testifying about how he would run or publish positive stories about Mr. Trump and publish negative stories about his opponents. Cohen said something largely similar in this meeting at this point. What was discussed was the power of the National Enquirer, placing stories about Mr. Trump that could be beneficial, negative stories about other candidates here. We don't know that those are going to be the specific sections that the jurors will get read back to them, but how do you see these tea leaves?
Oh, tea leaves they are. It is so difficult, even with a pretty straightforward question like that, as an attorney who's on either side, to read into what they're doing. I guess the easiest interpretation is that they are going over the facts, because you notice all four questions really related to the facts of the case. We haven't seen a question about a legal issue like causation or intent.
The facts of the case, but also the facts of the case that directly tied Donald Trump to these payments, right? That's
exactly
the common thread.
Yes, and so what you might have in the jury room is people debating these charges and saying, I remember something about this meeting, and someone else saying, that's not exactly how I remember it. And what's interesting to me is that they made a list. They said, well, let's mark down the ones that we want to hear back from. They didn't send out a note right away about the testimony they wanted to hear the first time they had a piece of testimony they wanted to hear. So they came up with at least 4 different things they wanted read back, and now they're getting them. And what's interesting to me is that with questions that are rooted in the facts, in testimony, I wonder if later on we might get into more legal type questions, like questions about the jury instructions, questions for further definitions. Those are always the more challenging, because the judge has to decide whether he's going to say, just go back to the instructions, or reread the instructions in this case because they don't get a copy of them.
But some of this lines up with the argument that the prosecutors were making in their summation that Mr. Seinglass made towards the end of his closing argument here. The idea that you got to look at Donald Trump's direct connection here, that the defendant, as he said, was tied in directly to these payments here. Do you see that this could be better for the prosecution or the defense if the jury's asking these questions?
On the net, better for the prosecution in all likelihood, because if they're asking for those transcripts to be read back, they may be just confirming what they believe to be true about these meetings, and they might be using those meetings to establish the elements of the crime that the prosecution
Now,
is.
all of this is coming up after the judge gave his jury instructions. That was the big news out of this morning, right before the jury began deliberating. And there is a piece of this that I think there are some in conservative circles have picked up, and in some instances have candidly misrepresented a bit about what Judge Merchan said, specifically about unanimity. Now, on these 34 counts of falsifying business records, the jury has to come back unanimously, either guilty, not guilty, if they can't agree, hung, right? Those are the options there.
Yes.
However, in order to prove that there's a felony, you and I have talked about this quite a bit, there has to be intent to conceal an underlying crime. Judge Merchan said that you do not have to agree on what that underlying crime is. That's where the unanimity part comes into place. Can you help us put this in plain English?
It's even trickier than that, in my view. So to elevate this to a felony, they have to find that Trump violated, was looking to conceal an election law crime. But that election law crime speaks of committing the crime with unlawful means. So now you have maybe a third level of criminality that you have to look at. And for that, they get several different options. And you're right. When it comes to unanimity, not all jurors need to agree on the same unlawful means that was used. They just need to come back and say, yay or nay, this was in furtherance of concealing another crime. But boy, these jury instructions are more complicated than you might expect, than many folks have said. And complication, I think, inures to the benefit of the defense.
That's interesting. Dasha, let me go back to you here, because a couple of the people who are picking up on what we've just laid out here, these sort of perhaps complicated jury instructions that Judge Merchan delivered, are 2 people who also happen to be on a short list, potentially, for a vice presidential pick for former President Trump. Senator Tom Cotton, Senator Marco Rubio, tweeting about these jury instructions here. Talk us through the politics of all this.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the point that Danny made, because this is so complicated, in the court of public opinion, it's also easier for Trump's allies to muddle the messaging and muddle the reality here. You know, first it was candidates for VP showing up here dressed in a Donald Trump uniform. Now this is sort of the new deep stakes race, is trying to defend him in this court of public opinion. You've got Rubio, Cotton. You also have Congresswoman Elise Stefanik saying she's filed a complaint regarding the assignment of Judge Juan Merchan to this case, and J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance, tweeting that he's filed a complaint regarding the gag order here. So a lot of his allies coming to his defense in different ways, Hallie.
Dasha Burns live for us there in downtown Manhattan. Danny Savalos here on set. I'm sure we will talk again, depending on how these deliberations go. Thank you very much. Got to get to some breaking news now out of the Supreme Court, with the defiant Justice Samuel Alito refusing to step aside from some key cases related to January 6th and former President Trump. In this new letter to top Democrats, he's talking about those controversial flags that were seen and reported flying outside his homes in both Virginia and New Jersey. One on the right, that's an upside-down American flag, obviously. The other on the left, that's known as the pine tree flag or the appeal to heaven flag. Both are a regular fixture of protests around the so-called Stop the Steal movement or related to the January 6th Capitol attack. Now, there are top Democrats who say, well, wait a second. This shows that Justice Alito is biased, that he is probably not able, in their view, to rule fairly on, for example, that big presidential immunity case that would decide whether Mr. Trump goes to trial for this federal election interference case. But Alito says, well, wait a second, no, I can be fair. I am not going to recuse. And he says the people who want him to recuse are trying to affect the outcome of the case. He says he's duty-bound to reject that. I want to bring in Ryan Riley joining us now. What is so interesting here is he says on the flag issue, very directly points the finger at his wife. He uses the word wife 10 times in the letter. He says in this letter, you know, my wife is fond of flying flags. I am not. He's trying to draw this delineation, it seems, between his own personal actions and the actions of his wife, who he says was involved in a neighborly dispute as it related to the Virginia flag and other issues.
Yeah, I mean, so you take there's the two separate flags, the one at the vacation home, the one at the primary residence in Virginia. He said with regard to this flag in Virginia, or rather this flag at his vacation home, that he didn't really know the flag. He thought it was historic. He didn't realize that there was this more recent connection to the Stop the Steal movement. But I thought the more interesting one was this discussion about his home residence, which that's the one that happened, the upside-down American flag, in January of 2021. And that one he was very aware of at the time, but said he was essentially powerless against his wife to get that flag removed, that she refused to move it for several days after. Just a very interesting look into the relationship dynamics there.
OK, so this is what he says. The question was he going to recuse? He says no. And yet you have Donald Trump in just the last couple of hours congratulating Justice Alito for, in his words, showing the intelligence, courage and guts not to step aside here. I wonder how outside observers are seeing this as it relates to the supposed impartiality of the court set to decide these critical cases involving January 6th and former President Trump.
That's really at the crux of this, because what is so important to the Supreme Court is public trust. And over several years, because of incidents like this, you have this declining trust in the Supreme Court. And that's really what is so essential when you talk about the judicial branch, is there has to be this shared agreement that these justices are going to hear these cases fairly and decide them regardless of the president who appointed them. And that is when the public looks at something like this, it makes it more difficult. So while Justice Alito can wrap his words in saying that he was duty-bound to continue to be on this case, really what this points to is that the Supreme Court really is policing itself in these instances. So essentially what you have is Justice Alito looking at himself and saying, hey, I did nothing wrong here, carry on. And that's really how this ends. There's not really the ability for them to return to this issue. Congress can write letters about it, but that's about it.
Ryan Riley, thank you very much. Out west now tonight, tens of millions of people in Colorado and all the way to the heartland in Texas are at risk of even more intense storms, even as folks are still cleaning up from some devastating tornadoes blasting southern states. Look at these trails of damages, basically. Power lines down. About 1 million people do not have electricity even as we speak. You had powerful thunderstorms with baseball-sized hail tearing roofs from buildings, flipping cars, snapping trees. Look at that, raining down a shower of sparks. Sam Brock is in Texas for us right now, and the immediate concern for people who aren't looking at how to rebuild their houses is, how do you get the lights back on?
There's no question. The power outage issue is an urgent one right now, Hallie. And, in just the Dallas area alone, there have been 1,600 service requests for things like debris and trees that have been uprooted and other hazards. But that's sort of like the aesthetic, what we've seen with a violent storm, uprooted trees, planes shaking, honestly, on the runway attached to gates at airports. But this is the story behind me right here. This block of South Dallas, I just talked to a number of residents. They're all in their 60s or 70s, Hallie, fixed incomes, have no power at all. This house right here is owned by Linnell Dixon. He has a wife who's on dialysis, and also has a pacemaker, and they now have no source of electricity. He's not sure how long the batteries are going to last on the pacemaker, and he is literally sweating it out. She's going to come home tonight after getting some care, and they don't know what to expect and when the power is going to come back. On the home after that is Velma Freeman. We spoke to her earlier today. She just bought $100+ worth of groceries, filling her fridge. She was famished, so she opened up the fridge door to get some food. All the cold air escaped, and now all her food has rotted. And I talked to her recently, and I asked her, what does it mean if you have to go another couple of days with no power, like 250,000 or so customers just in the Dallas area? Here's what she told me.
I'm not feeling well at all. As a matter of fact, that's why I went and got in my car and drove around for a month. I'm just so, it's so humid. My body is so clammy. It's devastating because that means I got to throw this stuff away and go back to the grocery store. When you said Wednesday and Thursday, my heart dropped.
Across the state right now, Hallie, there's roughly 313,000 customers with no power, the majority of them right here. Encore is the major energy provider here. They said that it's likely going to be Friday or Saturday when power comes back. So you're talking about another couple of days of 85-degree heat.
It's brutal. Sam Brock, thank you very much for being there for us. Some new video tonight from after the arrest of the world's top golfer on his way to play in the PGA Championship just 2 weeks ago. You're about to see some leaked police body cam video. It is grainy. It has not been officially released from police. It was recorded after Scottie Scheffler's arrest. This is it. When he was read his Miranda rights, he was talking with an officer. The video has been making the rounds online. The Jefferson County Attorney's Office and Scheffler's attorney did confirm the video to be authentic. That's it. You see Scheffler in the car there. It's the first time we've seen that video from the arrest, as Kentucky prosecutors today are dropping all the charges against Scheffler. Maura Barrett is joining us now. Okay, so he was arrested right before this critical tournament. The charges are now dropped. Help us understand the dynamics.
Well, the big key missing factor here is the fact that the police officer, the arresting officer, the one that alleged he was dragged by Scheffler's car, never turned on his body cam video. And so that means that we're never going to know the veracity of what he said versus what Scheffler said actually happened. The only videos we appear to have is that body camera video that the attorney's office confirmed the authenticity of, and then those traffic cameras and the dash cam video that we've seen before. But I want you to see and hear from a little bit of that body cam video right after his arrest to kind of get a sense of what Scheffler was feeling in the moment after his arrest.
As he was reaching in the car, he grabbed my shoulder and hit me, like
trying to get you to stop, right?
I pulled a little bit because I was afraid. I thought he was going to start hitting me, and I didn't know who he was. He didn't tell me he was a police officer.
And so we heard from Scheffler's attorney after the charges were announced to be dropped, and he referenced this video saying that it appeared that the officer was asking him leading questions. He very much painted Scheffler as a victim here. Ultimately, the prosecutor said that they motioned to drop the charges because there simply was not enough evidence, not enough probable cause to pursue that. And so LMPD, the police department in question, also released a statement saying that we respect the county attorney's decision and we respect the judicial process. Videos and documents were previously unreleased due to the judicial process will be made available for after appropriate redactions are made. And so we expect to see more potentially of that video released from police. But again, all of this is surrounding a big lack of evidence around the allegations that police officer had made when he arrested Scheffler.
What has Scheffler, if anything, said about this so far?
So he posted on Instagram right after the announcement saying that he welcomed the decision and said, again, it was an unfortunate misunderstanding. I hold no ill will towards Officer Gillis. I wish to put this incident behind me and move on. His attorney gave a press conference after the announcement and said that they do have grounds to put forward a lawsuit to sue the police department because, again, he said that Scheffler was a victim, but that they don't want to pursue that. They just want to leave it, move on, and keep playing the game of golf because he's at this historic moment in his career, Hallie.
Maura Barrett, thank you. To Philly now, and a rare joint campaign appearance from both the president and the vice president on the trail, aimed at trying to win back more in a key constituency this election, black voters. President Biden really leaning into the anti-Trump of it all.
With your vote in 2024, we're going to make Donald Trump a loser again. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let Donald Trump turn America into a place filled with anger and resentment and hate.
This is President Biden's 7th trip back to Pennsylvania just this year, and it maybe shows you just how important this specific state and this specific constituency is. Back in 2020, support from black voters in Philly is what helped put the president over the edge for that 270 electoral vote threshold. Now, this year, this election, different dynamic. Look at some of these numbers here. NBC News polling shows interest in this election among black voters is notably down this year compared to past elections. You see that 59% compared to in the 70s for the last 3 elections. Mike Memoli is in Philadelphia following the president. So, ma'am, the president, listen, is still leading among black voters according to NBC News polling. But there is, I think, a diminished enthusiasm that some of these pollsters are starting to pick up on and that some Democrats are seeing and concerned about here.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. I mean, you talk about that diminished enthusiasm, about 56% of black voters, less than the population overall, saying that they are enthusiastic about this election. That's a concern. And then when you see our NBC News poll from April that showed Biden with about 71% support from black voters, that looks like a great number. But consider what the exit polls showed 4 years ago, 87% support for President Biden, helping to power him to victory, of course, in 2020. And so that's what was behind the launch today, earlier than a Democratic campaign typically would for black voters for Biden-Harris. And when you talk to local leaders and some of the reporting I've done for other stories, one word keeps coming up about why they're finding, especially among younger black voters, there's such a challenge right now, and it's misinformation. And guess what, Hallie? Within minutes of the president beginning his remarks, he said, I have heard there's a lot of misinformation out there, and he came to bring the facts. So this is something that the campaign is very aware of, and you saw the president spend 8 minutes in his remarks talking about his accomplishments, what he thinks he's done to benefit, especially black and brown communities, and then just as much time talking about what Donald Trump has been saying on the campaign trail. Another part of the strategy here, Hallie, is about what the Biden campaign calls validators. You saw Governor Wes Moore from Maryland coming up to join the president today. You had the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, the first black man in that job, Austin Davis. You had Philadelphia's mayor, the first black woman to hold that job, all part of the multi-stop trip here to Philadelphia today. It's those trusted messengers that the Biden campaign is counting on, in addition to the vice president who is with the president today, to get that message out to those communities.
Yeah, and stipulated, of course, that the black vote is not a monolith, of course, like any other constituency. There was also this interesting moment when the president was asked about serving all 4 years of his term if he gets reelected. Explain that.
Yeah, the great thing about the White House press pool, which you know well, Hallie, is that there's a rotation. You have different reporters who move in and out on a daily basis. And so some reporters, let's just say, try to provoke the president more than get information out of the president. And so listen to the exchange between our friend Stephen Nelson of the New York Post, not a friendly outlet to this president, and Biden today on the trail.
President Biden, will you be serving your full 4-year term or handing over power to Vice President Harris? All 4 years or handing over? I can't hear you. Could you approach?
So the president asking Mr. Nelson if he, hit himself on the head. Listen, we know the president's age is a concern, but the idea of Harris as sort of waiting in the wings, the president in waiting here, has been something that's especially been used on the right to try to hurt the president in this election. It is interesting, as I saw the vice president speaking ahead of Biden today. She did get probably a more enthusiastic welcome and sustained ovation over the course of her remarks than the president. And so there's been a lot of questions about her role in the administration, her political liability, or is she of value to the ticket? The president has seen over and over again how crowds react to her and how crowds react when he brings her name up. And that's something that has kept her very much on the ticket and part of the Biden team.
And she, in so many ways, too, has been the leading edge as it relates to reproductive rights, right, and this issue of abortion access in this campaign. Matt, most important question. In Philly today, did you hear any Fly Eagles fly chants?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask if I made it to a Wawa.
I assumed you
did pick up some snacks.
No.
I know that was of interest to you, but I know there's a lot of concern about the Phillies. Yeah, they're in first place, but, the Yankees are looking pretty solid.
Ma'am, thank you. Appreciate you. Lots more to get to here on the show tonight, including some news from further out west. Convicted murderer Scott Peterson back in court today with his lawyers arguing there's no reason why there should be any opposition to testing new testing of evidence in his case. It's the latest push to try to get Peterson a new trial. Listen to this.
In all of my years, I have never had to litigate a DNA motion to this extent because DNA is just a no-brainer. It's very concerning that they are so vehemently opposing DNA testing in this case.
Peterson's team is trying to get a judge to let them do some new DNA testing on pieces of evidence, including, for example, a bloody mattress found inside a burned-out van the day after his wife, Lacey Peterson, disappeared. His lawyers are with the LA Innocence Project, and this is one of multiple hearings coming up for motions they've filed to try to open the case back up. Remember, a jury found Peterson guilty of killing his wife and their unborn son 20 years ago. He's been serving a life sentence ever since. And this was, if you weren't engaged in the news, that it was huge news. Huge national headlines for years as this trial unfolded. It became the subject of a bunch of documentaries, movies, podcasts over the last 2 decades. Liz Kreutz is joining us now from outside court, which is why, Liz, it was such a bombshell that the Innocence Project was taking this on, was trying to get this case open back up for. Explain what the defense is trying to do here and when we might get a decision.
Hey, Hallie, yeah, obviously a big deal and still a lot of media here today for this. Right now, the hearing is underway in the courthouse behind me in Redwood City, the same courthouse where this trial happened 20 years ago. We could get a decision by the judge today at the end of this hearing, or the judge could wait to make a decision in a filing in a later date. Basically, the decision would be whether or not to grant Scott Peterson and the LA Innocence Project their request for new DNA testing. Some of the items that they're asking to be tested have been tested before, some have not, but they are really zeroing in on this burned out orange van and what they say was a bloody mattress found in that van. They want to test that and see if Lacey's blood is on it. They say that testing was done back in 2019 when all of this first came to light a few years ago, but that results were inconclusive. That said, the prosecution is saying there's no need for any testing of this, that the test showed that there was not blood on this mattress. In fact, they say they're disputing that. And they say that the results showed that it was male DNA on the mattress. So disputing facts here, but the LA Innocence Project is saying, let us test it and see what we find.
Why does the prosecution say that this DNA testing shouldn't be done? Because ahead of this hearing, they submitted this like 300-plus page filing.
Yeah, they basically have laid out in great detail, granular detail, which is reflected in what we're seeing here at this hearing with the attorney prosecution really going line by line saying why they say he is guilty. But they're saying that there is overwhelming circumstantial evidence that Scott Peterson did this. It has been litigated in court, and there is no need to rehash it. Take a listen to what the attorney had to say.
We were right then, and we're right now, when we are indicating that this is inappropriate for the defense to continue to try and find things to drag this case out.
Now, Scott Peterson's sister-in-law and brother are here in court today to support him, as they always are. Lacey's family, they have not commented on any of this since the LA Innocence Project took on this case. Hallie.
Liz Kreutz, thank you very much. Coming up here on the show, why New York police are putting out a terror alert for a massive cricket tournament. Plus, the new lawsuit coming from one of the most popular airlines. Why 3 passengers say they were kicked off a plane because of their race. Why the comeback for one Olympic legend is coming to an end, at least for now. But first, some other news to get to tonight. 3 black passengers suing American Airlines today, alleging they were victims of racial discrimination. This group of men, you see them here, say they were rounded up on the jet bridge after being temporarily taken off that American Airlines flight from Phoenix to New York. 3 men sitting down with CBS earlier today.
As I got my things and walked to the front of the plane and made a left to the jet bridge, I noticed that there was 7 other black men. And that kind of was like, okay, what's happening here?
I want to bring in Emily Aketa now, who's got more on this. Okay, so what was happening here? What are the allegations?
So I'll say this. I've got the lawsuit here with me. It's certainly not mincing words here, accusing American Airlines of blatant and egregious race discrimination. And of the 8 men who were all black, who apparently were forced off of the plane, 3 of them are now suing, and you're seeing them on your screen. Alvin Jackson, Emmanuel Jean Joseph, and Xavier Reveal. By the way, they did not know each other before this January incident. They weren't sitting near each other, and they didn't even learn about why they were being asked to get out of their seat until after the fact. They learned that there was a complaint over body odor. And I think we had gotten our hands on some of the cell phone videos of the incident, and you really, their sense of disbelief and confusion and frustration is really quite palpable. You can hear comments like, we're the only ones getting taken off the plane. Look at us. I paid for the flight just like everybody else. Here's more from their interview with CBS.
It's almost inconceivable to come up with an explanation for that other than the color of their skin, particularly since they didn't know each other, they weren't sitting near each other. It seems fairly apparent that race was part of this dynamic.
So after they were forced off of the plane and they were
and again, the complaint, America allegedly was body odor. That's why
body odor, and they said that that was not a thing. Well, then they were let back on the plane, and they ended up taking the same flight back to JFK, and it was just an hour delayed. So.
What is American Airlines saying about all this?
Yeah, so one thing I will point out is that there are a number of airlines that have policies around body odor. I was looking on American Airlines website, for instance, that says to ensure a safe environment for everyone, you must be respectful that your odor isn't offensive. But again, the lawsuit alleges they didn't have body odor, and they also pointed out that this appeared to be all black male passengers. All of the black male passengers on the plane had been asked to get off the plane. American Airlines sharing this statement with us. We take all claims of discrimination very seriously, going on to say our teams are currently investigating the matter as the claims do not reflect our core values. The lawsuit also goes on to say that they do not believe this is an isolated incident. They point out in 2017 when the NAACP issued a travel advisory against American Airlines, warning black passengers of a recent string of what they said possible racial bias incidents. That travel advisory had been lifted some 8 or 9 months later, and the airline had invited the NAACP to tour their headquarters. So.
Wow. Emily Akita, thank you for staying on top of this one. Keep us posted.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, we now know what caused that nearly 200-foot drop on that deadly Singapore Airlines flight, the one with the turbulence. A preliminary investigation from Singapore's transport ministry says it was due to, quote, rapid changes in gravitational force. Remember, the plane made an emergency landing in Bangkok after going through some wild turbulence last week. More than 24 passengers are still in the hospital. Number 2, a pro-ISIS group putting out a threatening message about the upcoming Cricket World Cup in New York. An online post showing the host stadium with an ominous message. Officials say there's no evidence of a plot targeting that World Cup and that the group's just trying to stir up trouble. Security is getting ramped up around the stadium. Number 3, black children with lower socioeconomic status are starting their periods earlier than average, according to a newly published Harvard study. Researchers also found it takes more time for their menstrual cycles to become regular. Why? They say it could be because of the presence of childhood obesity. It's important because early and irregular periods could be an indication of health problems later in life. Number 4, Walgreens announcing it's cutting prices on more than 1,000 things. Why? Well, pretty simple. The company says it's because people are struggling with inflation and higher prices generally. We're talking about things like gummy vitamins, cleansers, etc. Price depends on where you live, of course. Number 5, gymnastics superstar Gabby Douglas ending her push to try to make the U.S. Olympic team heading to Paris this summer. Remember back in February, it was right here on this show when Gabby said she was going to get back in action. She was kind of unretiring, if you will. But now she's withdrawing from the U.S. Championships after an ankle injury this week. She's 28. She says she plans to keep on training. Maybe she'll make it to the 2028 Olympics in L.A. We hope so. Cheering you on, Gabby, even if it is 2028. Coming up, why balloons full of trash and K-pop are at the center of the latest fighting between 2 enemies who share a border. Plus, the scary and deadly explosion at a bank. What officials say went wrong. Next. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Midwest Bureau, more than 4 million chickens in Iowa are set to be killed because of bird flu at an egg farm there. It comes just a week after more than 1 million chickens were killed in Minnesota for the same reason. Basically, once the virus is detected, the chickens are euthanized so that it doesn't spread to other farms or flocks. Also out of our Midwest Bureau, at least 1 person is dead and more than a dozen others hurt. Look at this. After this building exploded in Youngstown, Ohio, officials are blaming it on a gas leak. They say it collapsed the first floor. This explosion basically collapsed the first floor into the basement. The person killed was working inside a bank on that ground floor. And out of our Northeast Bureau, the man accused of randomly punching people on the streets of New York has been indicted on hate crime charges. These incidents, dating back to September, have gotten a lot of attention online in the past few months. Prosecutors called the attacks anti-female, anti-white, and anti-Semitic. The man is representing himself in court and denies the allegation. To Korea now. The South Korean government today issuing an emergency air raid warning, not about bombs or missiles, but about balloons. Hundreds of balloons that floated over the border from North Korea overnight. You see them here, filled with things like trash and animal feces, old batteries, too, propaganda leaflets. South Korea is telling people, obviously, don't touch the balloons, report them to official. And what is just the latest in this years-long fight between North and South Korea? NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now. This battle of the balloons is happening in a pretty noteworthy way. Trash, manure, basically, coming across the board. Why? Why now?
Yeah, a really bizarre tactic, to say the least. So a few weeks ago, in early May, a North Korean defector who turned into this human rights activist launched some 20 balloons carrying hundreds of thousands of leaflets condemning North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. So then we saw this warning from North Korea's vice defense minister of this tit-for-tat action that was coming, and sure enough, that's exactly what we saw today. Some 200 balloons raining down over South Korea, filled with everything from trash, fertilizer, leaflets. There were some batteries in there, as you mentioned. Basically, you name it, it was stuffed into these balloons, Hallie.
This is not the first time that we've seen a balloon fight, so to speak, like this one between North and South Korea, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So definitely not the first time, but we know that both North Korea and South Korea have had this long history of launching propaganda balloons to each other. But we also saw a similar situation back in 2016. North Korea launched balloons that actually damaged cars and other property. So nothing new, but this certainly is the latest launch that triggered, as you mentioned, this emergency disaster alert in South Korea. Citizens being told not to touch the balloons. Knowing what we know now about what was inside definitely makes sense. Hallie?
Megan Fitzgerald, fascinating. Thank you very much. Coming up here on the show, the new ADHD treatment that doesn't involve any medications, but that does include more screen time. We're going to explain this one coming up. A potentially key moment for U.S.-China diplomacy today, involving not policy, but pandas, with some special guests coming back to Washington. The Smithsonian says 2 of them will head from China, private flight, by the way, to their new home at the National Zoo by the end of the year, thanks to a new agreement between the U.S. and the Chinese government. I know you remember this. I know it is seared into your soul that about 6 months ago, these beloved pandas left the Washington Zoo because an agreement to have them there expired. Tom Costello is on our Panda beat tonight, and he has more for us tonight. Okay, let me do sort of like micro, macro here. Micro, the pandas are coming back. We don't know specifically when, but it's a big deal.
End of the year.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
Let's get macro then.
Okay.
What this means for sort of the relationship between the U.S. and China, because when these pandas left with this agreement expiring, there was a lot of discussion about, hey, this sort of diplomatic moment, you know, how does this fit into the bigger picture?
And the context at the time was, you know, strained relations between the U.S. and China, and all of the pandas at American zoos were going back. Now, they are part of an exchange program and a conservation program, but a lot of political observers said, wow, why is China recalling all? Now, they were going to be sent back anyway. That's part of the agreement, but China wasn't replacing them. And boy, this seemed like an easy-peasy way to do diplomacy, especially outreach to typical Americans who love the pandas. And think about China. Here's
Roll
the
the
thing.
tape. It's you can't rip your eyes from it, Tom. Look at these little. Put the tape out. Look at the video. It's irresistible.
It is irresistible. But here's the thing. The Chinese ambassador today, the ambassador to the United States, was at the zoo. And she said, why don't we all care about our relationship with each other as much as we care about the pandas? In other words, it was a clear nod to the idea that this pandiplomacy, and I was coining the phrase panda taunt, like détente, panda détente may be real here, because we now know that other zoos are going to get their pandas back too. The San Diego Zoo, San Francisco's been led to believe they may get pandas.
And you talk about these other issues facing the U.S. and China. You've got tensions high over issues like Taiwan, trade, you know, manufacturing. Right, exactly.
Cybersecurity, theft, all of that, yeah. No, I think that this is all a very interesting conversation. You know, the first pandas came to the United States 50 years ago with President Nixon's, after his visit to Beijing, right? It was called pandiplomacy. And they came, and Pat Nixon welcomed them at the National Zoo. For 5 decades, they were the stars of the National Zoo. And then suddenly, last November, everybody gone, all pandas going back home. And it seemed like really kind of an unnecessary faux pas, if you will, a diplomatic faux pas, to pull the rug out on something that people in America love. And we get all these tourists from around the world coming to see the pandas.
And the zoo's like, here, buy your panda stuffy. Hey, here's the panda shirt. I mean,
it wasn't just in America, by the way. The Dutch pandas were sent home, the New Zealand and Australian pandas. But now it looks like maybe The Chinese are saying, okay, maybe we were a little bit too much rushing it here. This is a cheap way to buy goodwill with the American public.
Tom Costello, glad to have you here in New York, friend. Good
Love
to
it
see
here.
you on set. Appreciate it.
Best coffee in the world.
Okay, to tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And today, makers of this new liquid non-stimulant ADHD medication say they've got FDA approval. And it's coming at a critical time because, you know, there's been a record shortage of ADHD meds, all on the heels of a pretty extraordinary new CDC report showing 1 in 9 kids, so 1 out of every 9 kids now has ADHD. That's a spike over the course of the last few years. And now there's yet another first-of-its-kind treatment that has some folks asking, what if we don't need medicine to treat ADHD at all? Jay Gray has more.
Even a quick look online can be hypnotizing, fast-paced, overwhelming. Chaos, many doctors say, contributing to the explosion of attention deficit disorders in the U.S. According to the CDC, more than 14 million Americans have ADHD, including close to 6 million children.
And when we're on screens, our brain is literally dumping dopamine, the neurotransmitter that is so important for focus.
Focus is something 11-year-old Clinton Pierce and his parents say he struggled with for years.
I could, be in a whole conversation, and then 5 seconds later, I could be like, oh, look at that LeBron painting.
Formerly diagnosed with ADHD and initially prescribed Adderall, the drug helped for about a month, they say, before actually making things worse.
So that's when we fully started to explore different options.
Landing on an option that, ironically, includes more screen time. It's called Mindy, a new treatment for ADHD, depression, addiction, insomnia, and other cognitive issues. And here's how it works. Using a neurofeedback headband in conjunction with an online video game, patients concentrate on moving a ball up a hill, increasing blood flow and providing more oxygen to the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus, attention, and emotion. The device, described as a gem for your brain, is endorsed by neuroscientists at Stanford, Princeton, and Lund, a research university in Sweden. And NASA is aiming to use Mindy as a part of its long-duration space flight mission later this year. A study conducted with the space agency shows astronauts using it during downtime have reported performance increases and say Mindy helps them manage the stress that comes with isolation and confinement, while other independent studies indicate the technology can be effective in treating ADHD. For Clinton, Mindy has struck the perfect chord.
It's helped me a lot, and I love it. It's pretty fun, actually.
He isn't taking medicine anymore and says using Mindy for about 10 minutes a day, along with a healthy diet, meditation, and therapy, has helped him excel as an athlete and in the classroom, where he was just named the 5th grade student of the semester.
I think it's really helped my attention and focus on somebody speaking. In class, maybe I'd get up and do a little doodle during class like last year. But Mindy kind of it helped me focus on the ball, which helps me focus on my teacher and also maybe my coach or my parents.
Increased focus that for Clinton and his family makes the treatment a slam dunk.
Nice. 2 points for him. Jay Gray is joining us now. So, Jay, talk about what makes this kind of treatment so unique, so different.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it really makes sense, Hallie. Doctors tell me it treats the actual physical issue in the brain, unlike prescriptions, which really just treat the symptoms of ADHD and other problems. So it really goes straight at the issue here. If you had a heart problem, you'd treat the heart. You wouldn't treat the fact that you're winded, the fact that you couldn't climb stairs. You would treat the heart. So they say that's what makes this so different. No prescription is required, obviously. And a lot of the patients say it works in combination with a cleaner diet, more exercise, and in some cases even therapy. But there are a lot of patients, dozens, that we've talked to that have quit taking medicines fully because they are now using Mindy as a part of their regimen. One other note, and we've talked about the different applications for this. A lot of collegiate as well as professional sports teams have now included Mindy as a part of their regular training routines to help the athletes focus better both on and off the field. So it's really interesting and has a lot of promise.
Could it have an impact on the pharmaceutical industry more broadly, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that a lot of parents and some that we've talked with say, the last thing I want is to have my kid taking medicine all the time and having to use that medicine because they feel like it changes them in many ways. So I guess it could, but there are many patients, and I think it's important to point this out, that still get great benefits from those prescription medicines. So it's not going to go away, obviously, and for some, that's what works, and they'll continue to use it.
Yeah, it's all about how many tools you can get in that toolbox, it seems. Jay Gray, thank you very much, live for us on that, our original tonight. Appreciate it, Jay. Coming up, the Major League Baseball records getting broken some 80 years after the record breakers stopped playing. We're going to explain this one in just a sec. To baseball tonight with some Major League records being broken today about 80 years late. Why? Because for the first time ever, Major League Baseball says Negro League stats are Major League stats. That means true recognition for the man you see on screen here, Josh Gibson. Played catcher for 14 years, mostly with the Homestead Grays, but he died at age 34 in 1947, just 3 months before Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier. People who saw Gibson play called him the Black Babe Ruth. Others called Babe Ruth the White Josh Gibson. Now, in the official record book, Gibson's going to replace some big names in categories that even like casual fans may know. Batting average, slugging percentage. Look at this here. Gibson, now ahead of Ty Cobb, and yes, even Babe Ruth. Shaq Brewster is joining us now. Okay, Shaq, talk about, I mean, this is making headlines all over the country, right? And there's a lot of reaction to it.
Yeah, even from the families of some of these players who are now. We have Josh Gibson's family telling NBC News that they are honored by this and that, look, they've always viewed him, a Hall of Fame player, by the way, as a great player. They're happy that he's now getting that recognition. And, you know, we got a statement from the commissioner of Major League Baseball kind of talking about why this initiative was done. And the commissioner saying this initiative is focused on ensuring that future generations of fans have access to the statistics and milestones of all those who made the Negro Leagues possible. Going on to explain how this will encourage more people to look up these players, to learn about these players who, remember, did not just go play in the Negro Leagues because they didn't want to play in the major leagues. They did it so because they were expelled. They were excluded from Major League Baseball. I want you to listen to what a longtime New York Times columnist, sports columnist, told me about what this moment is and what this moment really is turning into.
The reality of our history is a reality of our history, that it excluded a lot of very, very, very talented people. And now they're being recognized. And I think just deal with that. And if you're unhappy about that, be unhappy about racism, because that's what led us to this point.
You know, many of these players who will now be in the official MLB statistics, we won't have the opportunity to see them play against those players. But now they're at least getting that recognition, or at least some of the recognition that their families are saying is long overdue, Hallie.
What's interesting here, Shaq, it's not just some of those players who never got to actually be in the major leagues. Some players who did get there, like Satchel Paige, are getting kind of this new look.
Right, because they had careers before they got to the major leagues, before those barriers were broken. Jackie Robinson, for example, known for breaking baseball's color barrier. Well, he will now have actually more hits onto his record, so that his total number of hits will be increased by 49. You have Satchel Paige, who you see up there. He'll gain 28 wins to his record. You see, so many other players who crossed that barrier so long ago will now have a more complete picture of their careers in that official stat sheet. And by the way, what has been updated today is not all that is to come. Experts are saying only about 74% of those games that they have gone through and that are archived have been actually moved over. So there's more numbers to come. There are future updates to come and more people to be honored, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster, thank you so much for bringing us that reporting. Super interesting. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We are coming on the air with some of those new clues, taking us inside the jury room at Donald Trump's trial with some notes from the jurors as we are now officially on verdict watch. We're going to take you live outside the courtroom with our reporter who's been inside all day, and that big question we want the answer to. Plus, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito blaming his wife for flying those controversial flags outside their home in a new letter to Congress, mentioning her 10 times, why he says it's not enough for him to step aside in some pretty big cases involving January 6th and the former president. Then, new reaction tonight from the world's #1 golfer after learning he will not face assault charges, why it's exposing tension between police and prosecutors in Louisville. Plus, a notorious convicted murderer back in court today. What Scott Peterson's lawyers want a judge to do now in a new push to try to set him free. And the new lawsuit against American Airlines by 3 black passengers who says they face discrimination because of their race. Why they say they got kicked off a plane. It's later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and in the last 90 minutes or so, we know tonight there is not going to be a verdict today in the trial of Donald Trump. Those 12 New Yorkers say they need a bit more time after sending some notes to the judge late in the day. I want to show you the former president leaving in just the last 30 minutes. Now, the jury, his lawyers, will all be back tomorrow to keep talking it through bright and early at 9:30 a.m. The jury says they want to hear the jury instructions again, and they want some of the testimony in this case read back to them. Remember, there's a lot to talk through here. 34 separate felony counts that Mr. Trump allegedly falsified business records to cover up hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, the former adult film star, about an alleged affair that Mr. Trump denies. As he was leaving court at a different moment today, the former president comparing himself, in a way, to a literal saint. Listen.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
Outside today, small groups of his supporters lined up. You see him there with a painting of Mr. Trump knocking out Robert De Niro, the actor and, so to speak, surrogate of the Biden campaign who spoke out against him yesterday. Laura Jarrett, Dasha Burns are both outside court in Manhattan as well. I want to start with the 2 big headlines here. The clues we're getting from jurors and then a potentially controversial jury instruction from Judge Merchan. Laura, let me start with you because you've been there. You've seen these notes get read out from the jury and what they want. Help us read the tea leaves here. They're asking for 4 pieces of information from testimony, and they want to hear the jury instructions again. Can we get any hints from that?
So let's start with the jury instructions, Hallie, because they were lengthy. They went over an hour. They spanned 53 pages. No kidding, they want to hear him again. They don't even get him back in the room during deliberations. Now, we don't know whether they want to hear the whole thing again or just a portion. We're going to find that out tomorrow morning. But it's not surprising, I think, that they would need a little bit more time to sort through some pretty complex law, even for sophisticated lawyers. On the Pecker and Cohen testimony, remember, Pecker is the very first witness. That happened ages ago in this case, really 6 weeks ago. And he's the one who really establishes putting the former president in the room where prosecutors say the conspiracy happened at Trump Tower, this plan to catch and kill, damaging stories that could have hurt his election chances. That happened because Pecker brought the jury along with that story. And so they want to hear from Pecker. They want to hear that testimony. They also want to hear from Cohen. And so now both sides are hashing out just exactly how much they could hear. The judge indicating it could be a lot. It could be substantial, maybe even half an hour of testimony read back. But we're going to know more tomorrow when we see exactly what portions are going to be read back.
Okay, so I want to get into this piece on the jury instructions, this idea, because we talked about here before, right? To be able to prove this is a felony, there has to be some sort of underlying crime that elevates this, essentially. The jury doesn't have to be unanimous on those, yes, but they do have to unanimously find him guilty. This is not some new thing where there doesn't have to be unanimous on these counts of falsifying business charges. They still have to agree, either guilty or not guilty, right? Explain this piece, because it's getting a lot of attention and there's some confusion around it.
And there's confusion around it because I think anytime you hear the jury doesn't have to be unanimous, alarm bells go off. And so the way this... Wait, that doesn't seem fair. And the former president and his allies have been pointing this out, but in a way that's not quite accurate. So here's the deal. The jury has to be unanimous about his guilt, full stop. That's always the case in any criminal case. The falsification of business records is the borderline thing here that's usually a misdemeanor. The way you bump it up to a felony is that it has to be in service of a second crime. What is that second crime? Well, prosecutors have offered a theory that it was a violation of New York state campaign laws, right? conspiring to promote his election through unlawful means. Hallie, stick with me here. It's detail, but that unlawful means, that could be any different avenue. And they've offered out 3 different possible scenarios of what that unlawful means is. Maybe it's tax violations. Maybe it's other federal campaign violations. Maybe it's even more falsification of business records. Whatever that theory is, Hallie, this is where they don't have to be unanimous. So the best way to think about it is they do have to be unanimous about his guilt or innocence, but how they bump it up to a felony, the jurors could have any number of different theories about how they bump it up to a felony. And that's what the former president is complaining about, because that's the part they don't have to be unanimous on.
So let me ask you the world's most annoying question that you've been asked 465,000 times today that we don't actually have an answer to, but that I think people are wondering. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I don't have the answer to that, but I do think the fact that they are asking for the instructions again is telling. I think the fact that they're asking to hear Pecker and Cohen's testimony again on the underlying conspiracy. Pecker doesn't know anything about falsification of business records. He can only talk about the conspiracy piece of this, and that's appearing what they want to hear from Cohen about too. And so I think that they're there instead of on the false business records is telling. And that's not to say that this won't come back tomorrow or the next day, but it does suggest that they are being methodical and diligent.
Laura Jarrett, live for us there downtown. Laura, thank you. Dasha, let me go to you here because there's a political piece here. Laura talked about the explanation, and we showed it on screen, of course, for the way that the jury instructions came out. Some of the people who have picked up on that, some of those conservatives, are close with the former president. Maybe coincidentally, are on his sweepstakes list. People like Senator Marco Rubio, people like Senator Tom Cotton here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And first of all, I got to say that was a great jinx moment. I really wanted in on that one. But yes, the Veep stakes are playing into all this because the politics is, of course, a hugely important backdrop for this, especially for the former president. And you had earlier in the trial, you had folks like Marco Rubio, Byron Donalds, others coming actually to the court, talking to the press. Now they're actually trying to take some action online. You heard from Marco Rubio and Senator Tom Cotton. You also have folks like Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who is claiming that she's filing a complaint about the selection of Judge Juan Merchan. You also have folks like Senator J.D. Vance saying that he's filing a complaint based on this gag order. So different allies and potential VP contenders trying to show their loyalty in different ways here, Hallie.
You talked about how the legal backdrop is inseparable from the political backdrop here. Talk it through from the other side, right? The other perspective here, because our White House team reports that, according to multiple sources, there will be some kind of a reaction from President Biden. One has to assume, of course, there will be, right? He's going to get asked about this. He's going to all but certainly have to respond to it to some degree. Walk us through the thinking there.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we've heard from our White House colleagues reporting that he has felt, and his campaign has felt, handcuffed by this trial because it's just taken up so much of the oxygen. We're in the media, we're talking about it constantly. So they did a little bit yesterday to try to break that up with Robert De Niro and the Capitol police officers. And now we're learning that they are going to respond. The aides are still debating exactly how he's going to respond, but they say that he will accept and respect the verdict no matter what it is. A big part of his message is always the importance of upholding the rule of law. But what exactly his response is going to look like isn't clear. What we do know is that as soon as this trial is over, the Biden campaign is expected to really kick it into high gear on the trail, Hallie.
Dasha Burns, live for us in New York on Verdict Watch, along with the rest of us. Thanks, Dash. Appreciate it. Got to get to some breaking news now out of the Supreme Court developing tonight. Justice Samuel Alito saying he will not step aside from some key cases related to January 6th and former President Trump in a new letter to Congress. This comes on the heels of these flag-flying controversies that he's faced for some of the provocative symbols seen outside his homes in Virginia and New Jersey. One is an upside-down flag. That's on the right side of your screen, long seen as a symbol of distress. The other, on the left side, that's the pine tree flag. It's the Appeal to Heaven flag. That's what it says. Both of these flags have been linked to the so-called Stop the Steal movement or to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Now, top Democrats say the fact that Alito is not recusing himself shows that he's biased, that he should not be, for example, involved in that big presidential immunity case that's in front of the court now. But Alito is getting some backup from some conservatives who are applauding his decision not to recuse. He says he can be fair. He says the people who want him to step aside are trying to affect the outcome of the case. I want to bring in Ryan Riley, who's joining us now. But the headline out of this, to me, is this explanation. Well, why are these flags flying in the first place? in so many words, this is not a direct quote, but Alito is saying, it's my wife's fault.
Yeah, I know. As you mentioned, he mentions her repeatedly over and over and over again, and almost explains it in a way that he had no say whatsoever on what flags, and that she refused, in fact, to take it down after he asked her to. That's talking about that upside down flag at his home in Virginia, and the key context of that, of course, is this was days after the attack on the U.S. Capitol when we saw these upside down flags flying, and that was what a lot of January 6th defendants or participants did. After they left the Capitol, they went home and they turned their flag upside down. It came up in an Oath Keeper case I covered, for example. I went on Google Maps and lo and behold, in January of 2021, his flag was flying upside down. So it was a real symbol in that moment.
And yet, right, so fine, he's not going to recuse himself. Stepping back for a second, though, there is a bigger picture question here of the optics of some of this, because you have former President Trump coming out just today after this Alito news broke, congratulating the justice for showing the, quote, intelligence, courage, and guts not to step aside here. There is an appearance question here that has to do with even just the optics of political bias.
Yeah, and our colleague Lawrence Hurley, I thought, actually wrote a great piece about those arguments during the Supreme Court, because what was really noticeable during these oral arguments about whether or not Donald Trump has immunity is that Alito was really on the side, essentially, of, in this case, the accused criminals, right? He's normally a guy who is very hesitant to take criminal defendants' side. He's a lifelong, he's a prosecutor before this. He generally lined up with prosecutors, very pro-prosecution. But in this instance, it all seems to reverse, and it's talking about, the criminal defendant who is Donald Trump in this instance, and suddenly it's about prosecutors, overreaching potentially, and that's what he's worried about. So the optics of this are very important. Of course, what the Supreme Court is all about is this idea that we all sort of have this shared agreement in our society that we're going to abide by what the Supreme Court says, especially when you're facing down a potential second Trump presidency. I think that the role of the Supreme Court in obeying what the Supreme Court says is really important.
Ryan Riley, thank you very much. Appreciate it. To weather now, because tens of millions of people tonight from Colorado to Texas are at risk of even more intense storms, as you're seeing cleanup now from these tornadoes that blasted a bunch of southern states, leaving behind a ton of damage, knocking out power to hundreds of thousands of people who are still in the dark as we speak. Look at this. Powerful thunderstorms. You see those sort of showers of sparks raining down, creating problems all over the place. Sam Brock is in Texas for us tonight. So what is the timeline here? You've got a whole cacophony of issues for these folks. Hot weather, no air conditioning, no power, and a huge question mark on the timeline for getting that stuff restored. Talk us through it.
It's absolutely brutal in the sense you think about all that tornadic activity, Hallie, and yes, that tosses things around. It's very disruptive. It takes roofs off of homes. But people right now don't have power. I mean, there's 310,000 customers in the state of Texas, the state, with no power right now. And like 60 to 70% of them are in central Texas and right here in the Dallas area. And I'm in a neighborhood here of Dallas where you see a giant tree over my shoulder, power lines that are hanging down, or these are fiber optic lines, but plenty of power lines throughout the area. And one cautionary tape and this giant thing here. And there's so many folks that are just waiting for that power to come on. And the question becomes the profile. To the timeline issue, what we're being told from Encore, which is the largest energy provider in the area, could be Friday or even Saturday for the hardest hit areas, most likely Friday. But you got to remember, these folks are in their 60s, 70s, 80s in some case, on fixed income and really don't have a source of being able to get an air conditioning unit running or central AC. Otherwise, they may not even be able to afford a generator, and they find themselves in this situation. One such example of that is Linnell Dixon. He is a 71-year-old that I interviewed earlier today. His wife, Hallie, is using dialysis. She has a pacemaker. They're unplugged, obviously, so now they're running on batteries. He doesn't know how long they're going to last. Gives him quite a good deal of concern at the moment. Here's part of our exchange. Take a listen. Right now, you don't know how much longer you have until this heart monitor machine stops working.
I really don't know. Right now, it's working on its own battery. I don't know how long it'll last before, because it must be plugged in.
And Hallie, it breaks your heart. I mean, that's sort of one window, one microcosm of what people are dealing with here. There's also just the basic problem of those who have freezers and fridges full of food, really the fridges, that's now gone bad, right? The second they open the door, all that cold air escapes and they have to spend hundreds of dollars again on food. Spoke to a number of people that are in that position as well. And there's really nothing they can do right now except wait this thing out. And it is really difficult to stomach.
Sam Brock, live for us there in Dallas. Sam, we're glad to have you there. Thank you. Some new video tonight from after the arrest of the world's top golfer on his way to play in the PGA Championship just about 2 weeks ago. You're about to see some leaked police body cam video. Now, it's not officially been released. Obviously, that's why it's leaked. But it was recorded. You see him there after Scottie Scheffler's arrest. This is the moment when he was being read his Miranda rights. He was talking with an officer. It's been making the rounds online, this video. Now, the Jefferson County's attorney's office, Scheffler's attorney, did confirm this video to be authentic. It all comes as Kentucky prosecutors today are dropping all charges against Scheffler, including charges of allegedly assaulting a police officer with his vehicle, with his car. The officer was directing traffic around a deadly accident near the course at the time this happened. Maura Barrett is joining us now. So walk us through the new video and some of the revelations today.
Yeah, this new video, Hallie, gives us some more insight as to what happened, the order of operations around Scheffler's arrest. And it tells us a little bit that corroborates with what we heard from his attorney, and it goes against what we heard from the officer alleging that Scheffler dragged him. I want you to watch and hear some of that interaction with the officer right after his arrest.
As he was reaching in the car, he grabbed my shoulder and hit me, like trying to get you to stop, right? I pulled a little bit because I was afraid. I thought he was going to start hitting me, and I didn't know who he was. He didn't tell me he was a police officer.
Scheffler's attorney had said that the officer there was asking leading questions, which you hear about. You also see Scheffler very polite, very cooperative, laying out what happened, also expressing fear because he didn't know it was an officer, he says, that was approaching him. And so this was something that the prosecuting attorney in Jefferson County reviewed over the Memorial Day weekend, along with lots of interviews, he said, also over the weekend. And frankly, there just wasn't enough evidence to prosecute the case. He said that's why they were putting forward to drop the charges, because there wasn't enough probable cause. Now, the police department, which obviously was involved in bringing those charges against Scheffler, released a statement following the announcement saying that we respect the county attorney's decision and we respect the judicial process. The videos and documents, which were previously unreleased, will be made available after appropriate redactions are made. So we might see even more video or other elements like that. But previously, we had only had a traffic camera and a dash cam video because the body cam of the arresting officer was never turned on.
And Scheffler is talking about all these developments, or at least some of them today, right?
Yeah, he posted on Instagram shortly after the charges were dropped, and he said he welcomed the decision. He said it was an unfortunate misunderstanding and that he holds no ill will towards the officer. He wants to put the incident behind me and move on. He also expressed condolences for the person who was deceased in the fatal accident that caused this whole traffic backup. His attorney, speaking after court today, did say that there are grounds for them to bring a lawsuit against the police department if they wanted, but realistically, Scheffler just wants to put it behind him, move on, and not waste Louisville taxpayers' dollars on a lawsuit like that. He wants to continue playing golf and just keep making strides in his career. Hallie.
Maura Barrett, thank you very much. Convicted murderer Scott Peterson back in court today. As the prosecution in his case says everybody knows what happened, so there's no real reason to revisit this in a new trial. Listen.
We were right then, and we're right now, when we are indicating that this is inappropriate for the defense to continue to try and find things to drag this case out.
Peterson's team is trying to get a judge to let them do new DNA testing on pieces of evidence, including on things like a bloody mattress found inside a van the day after his wife, Laci Peterson, disappeared. His lawyers with the LA Innocence Project are part of multiple hearings now on motions they've filed to try to open this case back up and, in their view, try to clear Peterson's name. A jury found Peterson guilty of killing his wife and their unborn son 20 years ago. He's been serving a life sentence ever since in a case that was huge. It was huge, huge headlines, national headlines all over the place for years as this trial happened and became the subject of documentaries, movies, podcasts over the last 2 decades. Liz Kreutz is joining us now from outside court. And the prosecutor said, listen, Liz, the evidence is clear. We don't have to keep rehashing this. But the defense says, hold up, there's more to it. Why?
Yeah, Hallie, I mean, the prosecution says, look, we've been down this road before. He's tried to get a new trial before, and it's always come back to this overwhelming circumstantial evidence in their terms that he is guilty. But the attorneys with the LA Innocence Project are now laying out a pretty compelling case today in this hearing that there was evidence that was suppressed at the time of the trial that should have been looked into. And they're specifically pointing to what they say is this bloody mattress found inside a burned out orange van in Modesto the day after Laci disappeared. They're trying to draw saw a connection, say perhaps Lacey was abducted by some of the burglars that were burglarizing the home across from the Petersons, that they abducted her and did something with her in that van. So they want to get the mattress tested again for DNA testing. Here's what the attorney had to say today.
In all of my years, I have never had to litigate a DNA motion to this extent because DNA is just a no-brainer. It's very concerning that they are so vehemently opposing DNA testing in this case.
Now, the prosecution is saying that the attorneys with the LA Innocence Project are looking over the fact that there has been DNA testing done before on many pieces of evidence they're asking to be retested, including actually on this mattress. There was testing done back in 2019, and the prosecution is saying, look, it came back saying that it was not a bloody mattress, there was no blood on it, and that the DNA on the mattress was that of a man, meaning it wasn't Lacey's. But the LA Innocence Project is saying that they think those results were really inconclusive and that they would be able to do new state-of-the-art testing on that mattress, Hallie.
You know, we said this in the introduction to this discussion, Liz. This case was the subject of so much fascination by people for so long, right? It seemed to be sort of settled 20 years ago, but now here we are 2 decades later in the midst of all these legal battles. And I wonder if you're seeing that at all reflected in some of the coverage. I imagine it's a media, I can't see other reporters, but I imagine there's been a media circus where you are.
Yeah, there's been a lot of media coverage here. A lot of reporters right now are in the hearing. Yeah. We're waiting to see what the judge decides. The prosecution's just finished laying out their case here. But it's interesting, Hallie, even this morning as we were lining up to go inside, there was a woman who showed up who just said she was a member of the public. She's been following the case for 20 years and is fascinated by it and just wanted to come and sit in that courtroom herself and listen. So there is still so much fascination to this day. And I think Scott Peterson is using that interest to try to build and, you know, get interest with the LA Innocence Project to take on his case now. He has maintained his innocence all these years. And it's interesting, too, that his family supports him. His brother, his half-brother's here with his sister-in-law. His sister-in-law went to law school after his conviction in order to get a law degree to help him all these years to prove his innocence.
Liz Croix, live for us there in Redwood City. Liz, thank you. To Philly now, and a rare joint campaign appearance from the president and the vice president there aimed at winning back, or at least winning more support from a key constituency this election, black voters, as the president's really leaning into the anti-Trump of it all.
With your vote in 2024, we're going to make Donald Trump a loser again. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let Donald Trump turn America into a place filled with anger and resentment and hate.
This is the president's 7th trip back to Pennsylvania just this year, which shows you, I think, just how important this specific state is, and frankly, this specific constituency as well. Back in 2020, it was support from black voters in and around Philly that put the president over the edge when it came to that 270 electoral vote threshold. Still, this year, less interest from some in that constituency. You see, this election, about 59% of those voters, of black voters, say that they're interested in this race, compared to numbers in the 70s for the past 3 elections. Mike Memoli is in Philly now, following the president. He's joining us now. So, ma'am, the president, listen, is still leading among black voters, according to NBC News polling, but there is, I think, a diminished enthusiasm that some of these pollsters are starting to pick up on, and that some Democrats are seeing and concerned about here.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. I mean, you talk about that diminished enthusiasm, about 56% of black voters, less than the population overall, saying that they are enthusiastic about this election. That's a concern. And then when you see our NBC News poll from April that showed Biden with about 71% support from black voters, that looks like a great number. But consider what the exit polls showed 4 years ago, 87% support for President Biden, helping to power him to victory, of course, in 2020. And so that's what was behind the launch today, earlier than a Democratic campaign typically would, for black voters for Biden-Harris. And when you talk to local leaders and some of the reporting I've done for other stories, one word keeps coming up about why they're finding, especially among younger black voters, there's such a challenge right now, and it's misinformation. And guess what, Hallie? Within minutes of the president beginning his remarks, he said, I have heard there's a lot of misinformation out there, and he came to bring the facts. So this is something that the campaign is very aware of, and you saw the president spend 8 minutes in his remarks talking about his accomplishments, what he thinks he's done to benefit especially black and brown communities, and then just as much time talking about what Donald Trump has been saying on the campaign trail. Another part of the strategy here, Hallie, is about what the Biden campaign calls validators.
senators. You saw Governor Wes Moore from Maryland coming up to join the president today. You had the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, the first black man in that job, Austin Davis. You had Philadelphia's mayor, the first black woman to hold that job, all part of the multi-stop trip here to Philadelphia today. It's those trusted messengers that the Biden campaign is counting on, in addition to the vice president who is with the president today, to get that message out to those communities.
Yeah, and stipulated, of course, that the black vote is not a monolith, of course, like any other constituency. There was also this interesting moment when the president was asked about serving all 4 years of his term if he gets reelected. Explain that.
Yeah, the great thing about the White House press pool, which you know well, Hallie, is that there's a rotation. You have different reporters who move in and out on a daily basis. And so some reporters, let's just say, try to provoke the president more than get information out of the president. And so listen to the exchange between our friend Stephen Nelson of the New York Post, not a friendly outlet to this president, and Biden today on the trail.
President Biden, will you be serving your full 4-year term or handing over power to Vice President Harris? All 4 years or handing over? I can't hear you. Could you approach?
So the president asking Mr. Nelson if he, hit himself on the head. Listen, we know the president's age is a concern, but the idea of Harris as sort of waiting in the wings, the president in waiting here, has been something that's especially been used on the right to try to hurt the president in this election. It is interesting, as I saw the vice president speaking ahead of Biden today, she did get probably a more enthusiastic welcome and sustained ovation over the course of her remarks than the president. And so there's been a lot of questions about her role in the administration, her political liability, or is she of value to the ticket? The president has seen over and over again how crowds react to her and how crowds react when he brings her name up. And that's something that has kept her very much on the ticket and part of the Biden team.
And she, in so many ways, too, has been the leading edge as it relates to reproductive rights, right, and this issue of abortion access in this campaign. Matt, most important question. In Philly today, did you hear any Fly Eagles fly chants?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask if I made it to a Wawa.
I assumed you
actually did pick up some snacks.
No.
I know that was of interest to you, but I know there's a lot of concern about the Phillies. Yeah, they're in first place, but, the Yankees are looking pretty solid.
Ma'am, thank you. Appreciate you. Listen, you got to have a Wawa. You know what I mean? Coming up, less Wawa, more lava spewing into the sky in Iceland. Look at this latest eruption. We'll tell you about the evacuation effort happening now. But first, a bit of a warning if a Nissan's parked in your driveway, why the company says tens of thousands of cars should be taken off the road. We're going to explain in just a second. Three black passengers suing American Airlines today, alleging they were victims of racial discrimination. I want to show you some video of what happened here. A group of men rounded up on the jet bridge after being temporarily removed from that American flight from Phoenix to New York. According to the suit, they say airline employees suggested that a complaint about body odor is what prompted their removal. The men say that was not true. Some of them sat down with CBS earlier today.
As I got my things and walked to the front of the plane and made a left to the jet bridge, I noticed that there was 7 other black men. And that kind of was like, okay, what's happening here?
I want to bring in Emily Aketa now, who's got more on this. Okay, so what was happening here? What are the allegations?
So I'll say this. I've got the lawsuit here with me. It's certainly not mincing words here, accusing American Airlines of blatant and egregious race discrimination. And of the 8 men who were all black, who apparently were forced off of the plane, 3 of them are now suing, and you're seeing them on your screen. Alvin Jackson, Emmanuel Jean Joseph, and Xavier Reveal. By the way, they did not know each other before this January incident. They weren't sitting near each other, and they didn't even learn about why they were being asked to get out of their seat until after the fact. They learned that there was a complaint over body odor. And I think we had gotten our hands on some of the cell phone videos of the incident, and you really, their sense of disbelief and confusion and frustration is really quite palpable. You can hear comments like, we're the only ones getting taken off the plane. Look at us. I paid for the flight just like everybody else. Here's more from their interview with CBS.
It's almost inconceivable to come up with an explanation for that other than the color of their skin, particularly since they didn't know each other, they weren't sitting near each other. It seems fairly apparent that race was part of this dynamic.
So after they were forced off of the plane and they were
and
at
again, the complaint, America allegedly was body odor. That's why
body odor, and they said that that was not a thing. Well, then they were let back on the plane, and they ended up taking the same flight back to JFK, and it was just an hour delayed. So.
What is American Airlines saying about all this?
Yeah, so one thing I will point out is that there are a number of airlines that have policies around body odor. I was looking on American Airlines website, for instance, that says to ensure a safe environment for everyone, you must be respectful that your odor isn't offensive. But again, the lawsuit alleges they didn't have body odor, and they also pointed out that this appeared to be all black male passengers. All of the black male passengers on the plane had been asked to get off the plane. American Airlines sharing this statement with us. We take all claims of discrimination very seriously, going on to say our teams are currently investigating the matter as the claims do not reflect our core values. The lawsuit also goes on to say that they do not believe this is an isolated incident. They point out in 2017 when the NAACP issued a travel advisory against American Airlines, warning black passengers of a recent string of what they said possible racial bias incidents. That travel advisory had been lifted some 8 or 9 months later, and the airline had invited the NAACP to tour their headquarters. So.
Wow. Emily Akita, thank you for staying on top of this one. Keep us posted.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, we now know what caused that nearly 200-foot drop on that Singapore Airlines flight that left 1 person dead from wild turbulence. A preliminary investigation from Singapore's transport ministry says it was because of rapid changes in gravitational force, confirming that. Remember, the plane made an emergency landing in Bangkok after that turbulence last week. Some 24 passengers are still in the hospital. Number 2, a pro-ISIS group putting out a threatening message about the upcoming Cricket World Cup in New York. An online post showing the host stadium with an ominous message. Officials say there is no evidence of a plot targeting the World Cup and saying the group's just trying to stir up chaos. Security is being ramped up around the stadium. Number 3, look at this plane, small plane, making an emergency landing on a South Carolina highway today. This is video from somebody who happened to be riding by. You see it there. The plane belongs to a flight school in Myrtle Beach. A spokesperson says it was on a maintenance flight when something went wrong. 2 people were on board, but fortunately, nobody was hurt. Number 4, Nissan asking the owners of more than 80,000 older model cars to stop driving. They say detective airbag inflators could explode in a crash. More than 24 people across this country have been killed in connection with the recalled Takata devices. You can find that if your car is one of the ones affected by going to Nissan's website. If it is, get in touch with the dealer to have the inflators replaced for free. Number 5, gymnastics superstar Gabby Douglas ending her push to try to make the U.S. Olympic team heading to Paris this summer. Remember, back in February, it was on this very show, right here with us on HJN, when she announced her return to the action. She was kind of unretiring. She wanted to see if she could get to Paris. Sadly, an ankle injury is going to stop her from doing that. She pulled out of the U.S. Championships. But she says she is going to keep trying for the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Coming up, drama in the skies between North and South Korea. The battle of the balloons filled with some pretty gross stuff. The focus of new tensions. Plus, the message from Haiti's new leader as he takes over a nation in crisis. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Haiti, the country's new prime minister is making his first public statement today, promising to try to push for unity. The Transitional Council has just selected Gary Conille for the job. He actually held the position from late 2011 to mid-2012. Haiti, as you know, if you've watched the show, we've reported on how they've been under attack by gangs, especially at the capital. Conille, in a statement, saying, "Together we will work for a better tomorrow for all the children of our nation." There's still no president in Haiti. Out of South Africa, look at this. Really long lines to vote in the country's most competitive election since the end of apartheid. We broke that historic vote down yesterday. People were still waiting when polls closed, but they were allowed to vote. Big issues involve unemployment rates, power blackouts, and corruption with the ruling African National Congress Party. Results are expected in the next few days. And out of Iceland, you see it here, a video of this very active eruption from a volcano there. Molten lava coming up, bright red. Tons of steam there. It's actually the 5th time this volcano has erupted since December. People are being told to leave the area nearby, including the popular tourist attraction, the Blue Lagoon. This is part of a volcanic reawakening after centuries. To Korea now, South Korea, and the government there today issuing an emergency air raid warning, not about bombs or missiles, but instead over balloons, hundreds of them, I want to show them to you, that floated over the border from North Korea overnight, filled with things like trash, animal feces, old batteries, propaganda. South Korea is telling people, don't touch these balloons. Report them to officials. It's just the latest in a years-long balloon battle between North and South Korea. NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now. This battle of the balloons is happening in a pretty noteworthy way. Trash, manure, basically, coming across the border. Why? Why now?
Yeah, a really bizarre tactic, to say the least. So a few weeks ago, in early May, a North Korean defector who turned into this human rights activist launched some 20 balloons carrying hundreds of thousands of leaflets condemning North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. So then we saw this warning from North Korea's vice defense minister of this tit-for-tat action that was coming, and sure enough, that's exactly what we saw today. Some 200 balloons raining down over South Korea, filled with everything from trash, fertilizer, leaflets. There were some batteries in there, as you mentioned. Basically, you name it, it was stuffed into these balloons, Hallie.
This is not the first time that we've seen a balloon fight, so to speak, like this one between North and South Korea, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So definitely not the first time, but we know that both North Korea and South Korea have had this long history of launching propaganda balloons to each other. But we also saw a similar situation back in 2016. North Korea launched balloons that actually damaged cars and other property. So nothing new, but this certainly is the latest launch that triggered, as you mentioned, this emergency disaster alert in South Korea. Citizens being told not to touch the balloons. Knowing what we know now about what was inside definitely makes sense.
Megan Fitzgerald, fascinating. Thank you very much. Coming up here on the show, the new ADHD treatment that doesn't involve any medications, but that does include more screen time. We're going to explain this one coming up. A potentially key moment for U.S.-China diplomacy today, involving not policy, but pandas, with some special guests coming back to Washington. The Smithsonian says 2 of them will head from China, private flight, by the way, to their new home at the National Zoo by the end of the year, thanks to a new agreement between the U.S. and the Chinese government. I know you remember this. I know it is seared into your soul that about 6 months ago, these beloved pandas left the Washington Zoo because an agreement to have them there expired. Tom Costello is on our Panda beat tonight, and he has more for us tonight. Okay, let me do sort of like micro, macro here. Micro, the pandas are coming back. We don't know specifically when, but it's a big deal.
End of the year.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
Let's get macro then.
Okay.
What this means for sort of the relationship between the U.S. and China, because when these pandas left with this agreement expiring, there was a lot of discussion about, hey, this sort of diplomatic moment, you know, how does this fit into the bigger picture?
And the context at the time was, you know, strained relations between the U.S. and China, and all of the pandas at American zoos were going back. Now, they are part of an exchange program and a conservation program. But a lot of political observers said, wow, why is China recalling all? Now, they were going to be sent back anyway. That's part of the agreement. But China wasn't replacing them. And, boy, this seemed like an easy-peasy way to do diplomacy, especially outreach to typical Americans who love the pandas. And think about China. Here's
Roll
the
the
thing.
tape. It's you can't rip your eyes from it, Tom. Look at these little. Put the tape out. Look at the video. It's irresistible.
It is irresistible. But here's the thing: the Chinese ambassador today, the ambassador to the United States, was at the zoo, and she said, "Why don't we all care about our relationship with each other as much as we care about the pandas?" In other words, it was a clear nod to the idea that this pandiplomacy, and I was coining the phrase panda taunt, like détente, panda détente may be real here, because we now know that other zoos are going to get their pandas back too. The San Diego Zoo, San Francisco's been led to believe they may get pandas.
And you talk about these other issues facing the U.S. and China. You've got tensions high over issues like Taiwan, trade, you know, manufacturing. Right, exactly.
Cybersecurity, theft, all of that, yeah. No, I think that this is all a very interesting conversation. You know, the first pandas came to the United States 50 years ago with President Nixon's, after his visit to Beijing, right? It was called pandiplomacy. And they came, and Pat Nixon welcomed them at the National Zoo. For 5 decades, they were the stars of the National Zoo. And then suddenly, last November, everybody gone, all pandas going back home. And it seemed like really kind of an unnecessary faux pas, if you will, a diplomatic faux pas to pull the rug out on something that people in America love, and we get all these tourists from around the world coming to see the pandas.
And the zoo's like, here, buy your panda stuffy. Hey, here's the panda shirt.
And it wasn't just in America, by the way.
Yeah.
The Dutch pandas were sent home, the New Zealand and Australian pandas. But now it looks like maybe the Chinese are saying, okay, maybe we were a little bit too much rushing it here. This is a cheap way to buy goodwill with the American public.
Tom Costello, glad to have you here in New York, friend. Good to see you on set. Appreciate it.
Best coffee in the world.
Okay, to tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And today, makers of this new liquid non-stimulant ADHD medication say they've got FDA approval. And it's coming at a critical time because, you know, there's been a record shortage of ADHD meds, all on the heels of a pretty extraordinary new CDC report showing 1 in 9 kids, so 1 out of every 9 kids now has ADHD. That's a spike over the course of the last few years. And now there's yet another first-of-its-kind treatment that has some folks asking, what if we don't need medicine to treat ADHD at all? Jay Gray has more.
Even a quick look online can be hypnotizing, fast-paced, overwhelming. Chaos, many doctors say, contributing to the explosion of attention deficit disorders in the U.S. According to the CDC, more than 14 million Americans have ADHD, including close to 6 million children.
And when we're on screens, our brain is literally dumping dopamine, the neurotransmitter that is so important for focus.
Focus is something 11-year-old Clinton Pierce and his parents say he struggled with for years.
I could, you know, be in a whole conversation, and then 5 seconds later, I could be like, oh, look at that LeBron painting.
Formerly diagnosed with ADHD and initially prescribed Adderall, the drug helped for about a month, they say, before actually making things worse.
So that's when we fully started to explore different options.
Landing on an option that, ironically, includes more screen time. It's called Mindy, a new treatment for ADHD, depression, addiction, insomnia, and other cognitive issues. And here's how it works. Using a neurofeedback headband in conjunction with an online video game, patients concentrate on moving a ball up a hill, increasing blood flow and providing more oxygen to the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus, attention, and emotion. The device, described as a gem for your brain, is endorsed by neuroscientists at Stanford, Princeton, and Lund, a research university in Sweden. And NASA is aiming to use Mindy as a part of its long-duration space flight mission later this year. A study conducted with the space agency shows astronauts using it during downtime have reported performance increases and say Mindy helps them manage the stress that comes with isolation and confinement, while other independent studies indicate the technology can be effective in treating ADHD. For Clinton, Mindy has struck the perfect chord.
It's helped me a lot, and I love it. It's pretty fun, actually.
He isn't taking medicine anymore and says using Mindy for about 10 minutes a day, along with a healthy diet, meditation, and therapy, has helped him excel as an athlete and in the classroom, where he was just named the 5th grade student of the semester.
I think it's really helped my attention and focus on somebody speaking. In class, maybe I'd get up and like do a little during class like last year, but Mindy kind of like, it helped me focus on the ball, which helps me focus on my teacher and also like maybe my coach or my parents.
Increased focus that for Clinton and his family makes the treatment a slam dunk.
Nice. 2 points for him. Jay Gray is joining us now. So, Jay, talk about what makes this kind of treatment so unique, so different.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it really makes sense, Hallie. Doctors tell me it treats the actual physical issue in the brain, unlike prescriptions, which really just treat the symptoms of ADHD and other problems. So it really goes straight at the issue here. If you had a heart problem, you'd treat the heart. You wouldn't treat the fact that you're winded, the fact that you couldn't climb stairs. You would treat the heart. So they say that's what makes this so different. No prescription is required, obviously. And a lot of the patients say it works in combination with a cleaner diet, more exercise, and in some cases even therapy. But there are a lot of patients, dozens, that we've talked to that have quit taking medicines fully because they are now using Mindy as a part of their regimen. One other note, and we've talked about the different applications for this. A lot of collegiate as well as professional sports teams have now included Mindy as a part of their regular training routines to help the athletes focus better both on and off the field. So it's really interesting and has a lot of promise.
Could it have an impact on the pharmaceutical industry more broadly, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that a lot of parents and some that we've talked with say the last thing I want is to have my kid taking medicine all the time and having to use that medicine because they feel like it changes them in many ways. So I guess it could, but there are many patients, and I think it's important to point this out, that still get great benefits from those prescription medicines. So it's not going to go away, obviously, and for some, that's what works, and they'll continue to use it.
Yeah, it's all about how many tools you can get in that toolbox, it seems. Jay Gray, thank you very much, live for us on that. Our original tonight. Appreciate it, Jay. Coming up, the Major League Baseball records getting broken some 80 years after the record breakers stopped playing. We're going to explain this one in just a sec. To baseball tonight with some Major League records being broken today about 80 years late. Why? Because for the first time ever, Major League Baseball says Negro League stats are Major League stats. That means true recognition for the man you see on screen here, Josh Gibson. Played catcher for 14 years, mostly with the Homestead Grays, but he died at age 34 in 1947, just 3 months before Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier. People who saw Gibson play called him the Black Babe Ruth. Others called Babe Ruth the White Josh Gibson. Now, in the official record book, Gibson's going to replace some big names in categories that even like casual fans may know. Batting average, slugging percentage. Look at this here. Gibson, now ahead of Ty Cobb, and yes, even Babe Ruth. Shaq Brewster is joining us now. Okay, Shaq, talk about, I mean, this is making headlines all over the country, right? And there's a lot of reaction to it.
Yeah, even from the families of some of these players who are now knocking down a lot of these records. You have Josh Gibson's family telling NBC News that they are honored by this and that, look, they've always viewed him, a Hall of Fame player, by the way, as a great player. They're happy that he's now getting that recognition. And, you know, we got a statement from the commissioner of Major League Baseball kind of talking about why this initiative was done. And the commissioner saying this initiative is focused on ensuring that future generations of fans have access to the statistics and milestones of all those who made the Negro Leagues possible. Going on to explain how this will encourage more people to look up these players, to learn about these players who, remember, did not just go play in the Negro Leagues because they didn't want to play in the major leagues. They did it so because they were expelled. They were excluded from Major League Baseball. I want you to listen to what a longtime New York Times columnist, sports columnist, told me about what this moment is and what this moment really is turning into.
The reality of our history is a reality of our history, that it excluded a lot of very, very, very talented people. And now they're being recognized. And I think just deal with that. And if you're unhappy about that, be unhappy about racism, because that's what led us to this point.
You know, many of these players who will now be in the official MLB statistics, we won't have the opportunity to see them play against those players. But now they're at least getting that recognition, or at least some of the recognition that their families are saying is long overdue, Hallie.
What's interesting here, Shaq, it's not just some of those players who never got to actually be in the major leagues. Some players who did get there, like Satchel Paige, are getting kind of this new look.
Right, because they had careers before they got to the major leagues, before those barriers were broken. Jackie Robinson, for example, known for breaking baseball's color barrier. Well, he will now have actually more hits onto his record, so that his total number of hits will be increased by 49. You have Satchel Paige, who you see up there. He'll gain 28 wins to his record. You see, so many other players who crossed that barrier so long ago will now have a more complete picture of their careers in that official stat sheet. And by the way, what has been updated today is not all that is to come. Experts are saying only about 74% of those games that they have gone through and that are archived have been actually moved over. So there's more numbers to come. There are future updates to come and more people to be honored, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster, thank you so much for bringing us that reporting. Super interesting. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.